I just want to know, can I have your police numbers, please? Can I have your police numbers? Yeah, can I have your police number first? Because I don't know if you're police. You might not be police. I don't know. Can I have your police number, please, and your name?
Now you can open the door, please.
Packing for the exodus. Essentials were gathered. Mouls, chickens, candy floss. Daddy, what about poofire? Of course, my love. How could we forget the caramel puff? The angel of the Lord was circling, and Rueben knew this place would soon be swallowed whole. Rueben packed the mouls with trembling hands. Gimora double-checked the candy floss. It was sacred, after all. Hacko debated the ethics of bringing chickens. They're not negotiators, he muttered. They're saboteurs. Skye'seven clutched the poofire like a holy relic, greater than, if the world ends, it should taste like caramel. The angel circled again, wings like sirens.
Would you ever really want to see an angel?
Did you ever notice how in the Bible, whenever God needed to punish someone, or make an example, or whenever God needed a killing, he sent an angel? Did you ever wonder what a creature like that must be like? A whole existence spent praising your God, but always with one wing dipped in blood.
Would you ever really want to see an angel?
Eyes like verdicts. Rueben whispered, "We're almost ready."
Ah, 2021. Paradise, paradise, another morning in paradise, 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 another morning in paradise, 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 paradise.
But the ark wouldn't close. Not until the lullaby was sung. The alarm clock of now. A rooster of sacred presences who keep us awake in the moment. Skye'seven, keeper of sweetness. Her caramel poofire softens the blow of endings. She reminds us, joy is urgent. Hacko, the reluctant city, negotiates with thunder, mistrusts silence. He wakes us with questions we forgot to ask. Gimora, the rhythm architect, tunes the lullaby to scandalize the stars. She reminds us, every breath is a beat. Rueben, the last poet, gathers essentials with trembling hands. He teaches, presence is preparation. The angel of circling sands of the hourglass never lands, always spinning, never leaves. Its wings are reminders that time is watching. The moles small, stubborn creatures who refuse to be forgotten. Defiant, now is enough. The candy floss. Oracle dissolves on the tongue, speaks in sweetness. Her prophecy, be here or be rewritten. The free will choice is yours. The roosters of reckoning. They crow not at dawn, but at decision. Their call splits illusion from truth. Wake up, they scream. The moment is not waiting. The message is now. The children in blue. Daddy, who are those in blue? The Sen children, from my old school, and Anu. They were covered in starlight blue, but Ruben's heart sank. Still not enough. Just a few, the search for the righteous. Rueben ran to his closest friends, the ones who broke bread with him, whom he stood beside in the middle of every fight. They had forgotten his gift, spiritual sight like infrared, discerning blue and red even behind smiles. Still, he gave them bread. Still, he hoped, though he sensed their evil intent. They had forgotten his gift. Spiritual sight like infrared, discerning blue and red, even behind smiles. Greater than the heat of hidden knives beneath robes of praise. Still, he gave them bread. Still, he hoped, though he tasted the rust of their betrayal. For the mission was older than memory, and the prophecy would not wait for perfect hearts. Some must stand, some must carry the impossible like fire in their bones. And when the veil split, not all would survive the light. He was sent with bread, not armor, greater than sent with sight, but not the full vision. Because if he knew the depth of their hatred, he would have declined the call.
Yes. Ensu, the flame bearer. Message to the CC. Collective consciousness. Listening to God's alphabet of intuition. Continue to listen to the wind talking to the stars. I feel it in my heart, the divine spark. Fucking with my ancient science, yeah, the dark arts. I see you in your midst, blowing you a kiss. You cannot resist the narrow path that will take you into your bliss. Join me in the dream world. That's where my legion is held, in the ethereal realm. And where we back up and cook up and hook up and throw up our hands and clench our fists. Change reality collectively at the flick of a wrist. Yeah. And just one of the man them, just one of the fans them, just one of the heroes. Lo and behold, we journey back and forth between the two worlds. Bringing you the gifts, can you feel the shift, moving you into and past the fear. For those lost in this mist, in this man-made eternal hell, the purple candle was lit. We journey forth to the Sirius cliff. The dark star, yeah, she's my bitch. The sands of time dripping off the tip of my lips. Remembering what it is we forgot, what we forgot. The backslam of the gods. Give you goo, govaga, divigis. You got this.
A relationship. Chosen one, you were stepping out of a trap, a carefully constructed illusion designed to silence your awakening. They never knew they were being used, never saw how their pain became a portal for darker forces to hijack their choices. They weren't conscious pawns, but pawns nonetheless moved across a spiritual chessboard by hands they couldn't see, by spirits that have hated your light since the day you were born. The moment you entered their life, your frequency disrupted everything. You carry a vibration that collapses strongholds, even if no one speaks it aloud. You didn't just love them, you activated them, not their higher self, but the shadows they weren't ready to face. You became the mirror that revealed their wounds, their unresolved karma, the ancestral pain still echoing in their DNA. And for those who refuse to heal, The presence of truth becomes unbearable. They didn't reject you. They rejected what you awakened in them. They didn't betray you. They betrayed their own soul's invitation to evolve. They thought they could handle your light, but they were still operating under programs written by trauma. And when you showed up, shining with unexplainable grace, those programs malfunctioned. The Matrix panicked, so it sent its signal through them, against you, and while you loved sincerely, they were silently weaponized. Your heartbreak wasn't ordinary. It was engineered, designed to see if the chosen one could survive the betrayal of someone they trusted, someone they prayed for, someone they thought was divine assignment, but was really a divine mirror. You didn't lose love. You were graduating. The pain was your initiation. The betrayal, your classroom. The abandonment, your unveiling. You needed to feel the sting, not because the universe is cruel, but because destiny has enemies. And until you recognized how even love can be used as a snare, you wouldn't fully awaken to your spiritual authority. This was bigger than them, bigger than you. You were confronting a karmic loop one your ancestors kept repeating, and you were chosen to end it. That's why it hurt so deeply. That's why you couldn't fix them, no matter how much you poured in, because this wasn't about healing them. It was about liberating you. Your presence forced their shadows to the surface. Your silence screamed louder than their excuses, and your exit shattered the chains they thought you'd never break. They thought you would stay trapped in their confusion, blind to the spirit behind the smile. But God had other plans. Heaven saw your tears. Hell marked your name, and earth is now witnessing your rise. You didn't just walk away, you ascended. And they're left with a silence that convicts, a memory that won't let them sleep, because now they know who you really were. You were never just the lover. You were the catalyst, the spark, the revealer, the chosen one, the test they didn't pass, the threat they didn't understand, and now the game is over. You broke the contract. You're free. Don't look back. Lot's wife did, and she turned into salt. Don't grieve what was sent to grieve you. Don't romanticize what heaven rescued you from. You're not bitter. You're reborn. You're not heartbroken. You're aligned. And what's coming next won't just be love, it will be destiny. And this time, no pawn, no spirit, no game will stand in the way. And now you see it more clearly. This wasn't just a relationship gone wrong. It was a war.
Amazon made $638 billion in 2024. Now, the majority of that revenue, 70.1% of it, came from e-commerce. Some of the revenue came from other streams. Audiobooks made about 0.7%, a tiny slice of their revenue. 63% of Amazon's e-commerce sales came from third-party sellers selling on the platform. My name's Ollie, and I've helped some of the top 100 sellers work so well. Risky, it's expensive. It requires skills that a lot of people don't have, and it takes a lot of time. Instead of starting your own business, allow Amazon to do 80% of the work for you. Here's what's fascinating. The majority of these successful Amazon sellers didn't invent a product. They sold products that were already viral. They piggybacked on Amazon's fulfillment network and on the success of already established brands on the platform. They were products customers already wanted.
War coordinated in the unseen. There was a shadow grid behind their smile, a network of dark energy that thrives on unhealed wounds, on silence, on spiritual blindness. They didn't know they were connected to it, but every trauma they carried was a live wire, plugged into a system designed to drain your light and delay your awakening. You were never just fighting them. You were standing against a matrix built to keep chosen ones in spiritual amnesia. These weren't just emotional games. These were strategic attacks from low vibrational entities. Archons, parasites, ancient energies that feed on fear and dependency. They manipulate thought patterns, twist perception, whisper lies wrapped in love. You thought it was love, but it was a trauma bond coded into your subconscious when you were still young, still open, still unguarded. They triggered wounds you didn't even know were still bleeding. And that was the point. Because when pain becomes familiar, we confuse it for connection. But what you were really feeling was a contract, a karmic echo, an old agreement signed in lifetimes past, one you were born to end. You were tied to them before your first breath, but heaven sent you back this time with the power to break what your bloodline couldn't. That's why it felt like deja vu. That's why it felt fated and yet so destructive. Because it was fated to end. Your soul came back as a warrior, but theirs stayed asleep. So when your light activated, their shadows retaliated. Not because they were evil, but because they were still coded by an energy that rejects the truth. That's why they shifted so fast. That's why their love grew cold. You weren't meeting their heart. You were confronting their programming. Many are walking around like people, but they are software, scripted by trauma, run by ancestral pain, replicas of pain passed down from generation to generation, epigenetic memory turned into personality traits. And unless they choose to awaken, they will always be a vessel for something else to enter when the light gets too bright. That's why the sabotage was so personal, so surgical. It was precise. You were being tested by forces greater than them. They were simply the disguise, a test mask on the battlefield of your soul's promotion. They were sent to reveal what still needed healing, what still made you hesitate, what still made you choose attachment over destiny. But here's the revelation you passed. Not because you didn't break, but because you didn't stay broken. You walked away. You surrendered the idol of comfort. You laid down what felt like love in exchange for what was actually freedom. That's how heaven knew you were ready. And when you passed that test, the light around you increased. Your aura expanded. Your assignment shifted. But so did the resistance. Because your elevation is a threat. Your clarity disturbs hidden dimensions. You have now become visible to the realms that once ignored you. But you are no longer in disguise either. You've been revealed, marked, anointed, guarded. Because what's coming next will require all of you fully awake, fully healed, and completely unavailable to soul-draining counterfeits. And though more tests may come, you now carry discernment like a sword and wisdom like a shield. You've seen what's behind the veil. You've touched the fire and didn't burn. You are no longer the version of you that could be deceived. This time, you will recognize the frequency before it speaks, because now you know the game. And more importantly now, the game knows you. And now you understand this was never personal, it was spiritual. What came through them wasn't from them. They were the host, not the architect. And yet, your soul recognized the assignment. You weren't just breaking cycles. You were confronting invisible contracts, soul ties written in lifetimes past, agreements made before memory, hidden permissions your ancestors signed in desperation. And now you were the one sent to void them, not through vengeance, through alignment, through silence, through the refusal to stay small when the storm came knocking. You were never meant to fix them. You were meant to outgrow them. And every time you chose peace over proving, stillness over reacting, boundaries over begging heaven, recorded it as victory. You thought you were losing love, but you were gaining spiritual authority. Because not everyone you love is assigned to your next level. Some are planted as weights to see if you'll stay grounded in pain or rise in purpose. And rise, you did. Quietly, without applause, without closure. Because closure is a luxury the chosen rarely get. See, this was a divine setup. You were enrolled in the curriculum of the elite, the remnant, those who are trained in fire, refined in confusion, elevated through betrayal. God didn't send them to comfort you. He allowed them to expose you, to show you where you still craved external validation, to show you what part of you still believed love had to be earned through suffering. That illusion had to be shattered. That soul pattern had to be burned. Because where you're going, attachment to pain masquerading as love cannot come. You were being prepared. Because the higher realms don't promote based on feelings, they promote based on readiness. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. For the light you carry now isn't just light, it's revelatory. It exposes, it disrupts, it divides. That's why people shift when you enter the room. That's why counterfeit spirits flinch when you speak. Because your voice carries frequency now. The frequency of truth, the frequency of heaven. And darkness can only pretend for so long before it must flee or fight. And that's why some will turn on you. Not because you harm them, but because the light in you forced the darkness in them to make a choice, transform, or attack. And many will choose the latter. Not because they're evil, but because they're still bound. So don't take it personal when old circles fall silent, when old lovers get cold, when familiar places feel foreign. That's not rejection, that's a divine shift. That's God closing the portals that once kept you entangled. You're being consecrated now, hidden in plain sight, separated for sacred things. You've entered a new territory, and in this realm, your discernment is your passport. Your boundaries are your armor, and your obedience is your guarantee. This is no longer about who likes you. This is about who's assigned to your destiny. Some were sent to test you, but others are being sent to build with you. And you'll know them not by their words, but by their energy, their peace, their fruit, their spiritual weight. Because now, you no longer trust faces. You read spirits. And nothing hidden can stay hidden in your presence anymore. Because now, chosen one, you are the revealer. And that's why you've been feeling the shift in your spirit before it ever touched the natural. Because elevation happens in the invisible first. You didn't imagine the warfare. You weren't being dramatic. Your spirit was under surveillance. Because the light inside you was too loud to be ignored. The moment you outgrew the cycle, the frequency of your soul changed. And every entity, every karmic tie, every parasitic connection that once fed on your confusion went into panic. Because you were no longer accessible, no longer programmable, no longer caught in the loop of explaining your worth to those who were never meant to hold it. Chosen one, the most dangerous thing you ever did was heal. It made you unpredictable to the enemy. It made you unrecognizable to the spirits that used to study you. It broke the rhythm they used to bait you. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you embody. You no longer fear being misunderstood because now you understand yourself. And when you understand who you are in the kingdom, you stop negotiating with anything that moves against your purpose. That's why the pressure increased, because the test wasn't just about them, it was about you. Would you self-abandon to keep the illusion, or would you choose you? Even if it meant walking through the fire alone, you chose you, and heaven recorded it. And now the assignment has shifted. You're not just healing from the battle, you're being prepared for the building. Because when a chosen one graduates, the next phase is never ease, it's impact. The influence you're stepping into is not for applause, it's for alignment, it's for awakening. And that's why you had to be refined in silence, because public power requires private consecration. You had to walk through betrayal so you could carry discernment. You had to feel abandonment so you could recognize authentic presence. You had to lose what you wanted so you could receive what was truly yours. Now, you're being trusted with spiritual keys, keys to unlock others, keys to dismantle hidden bondage in places others can't even see. That's why you couldn't stay stuck in their web, because you were called to be the blueprint out, the deliverer in your bloodline, the curse breaker, the system disruptor, the prophetic voice sent to speak where silence used to reign. You are no longer just surviving heartbreak. You are carrying holy revelation. The heartbreak was the cocoon, but the authority, that's the emergence. Now they watch you from afar, silenced by the version of you they never believed would exist. They remember the version they broke, but they never imagined the one who would rise. Let them wonder. Let them replay. Let them wrestle. Because their season is over. The pawn has been removed from the board, and the chosen is walking in full dominion, no longer responding to warfare, no longer entangled in cycles, but leading, building, restoring, reigning. You've stepped into prophetic clarity. You've stepped into divine confidence, And no false lover, no shadow tie, no hidden force will ever have access to you again. Because now, you know who you are. And more importantly, so do they. And now that you know who you are, what do you do with that power? You protect it, you guard it. Because not everyone deserves proximity to your anointing. The enemy knows he can't destroy you. So now he sends distractions dressed like divine appointments. New faces, same spirits, smiles wrapped in sabotage. People who speak the language of light, but carry the frequency of delay. They'll flatter you, mirror you, study you until they find your weakness. Not because they hate you, but because they've been assigned to you. To get close, to study the pattern, to break the blueprint. But you've seen this before, haven't you? Different name, same test. This time, you won't fall for it, because discernment is now your language. You read energy, not words. You sense the spirit before the sentence, and the moment that old frequency shows up, even in a new outfit, you recognize the echo, the vibration, the pattern, because demons may change tactics, but they don't change their agenda to block, to drain, to slow the chosen. But what they don't realize is this: your last heartbreak didn't break you. It baptized you into wisdom, into fire, into a level of clarity that no mask can penetrate. Now your soul is guarded by revelation. You don't move off emotions anymore, you move off heavenly instruction. And when God says leave, you don't ask questions. When God says close the door, you don't hesitate, because you've seen what delay costs. You've lived what compromise creates. You've walked the valley of counterfeit connection, and now you want nothing that isn't sent. You don't chase, you align. You don't explain, you elevate, because your energy is not public domain anymore. It's sacred, it's holy, it's strategic. You don't owe your light to spaces committed to staying in darkness. Chosen one. Hear this clearly: your ex wasn't the enemy. They were the trigger, the tool, the unlocked code that pushed you into purpose. And now that the test has passed, the door is closed, the karmic contract is nullified, the cycle is over, and what's ahead isn't just healing, it's rebuilding, it's reigning, it's restoration in places the enemy tried to convince you were permanently ruined. But what man breaks, God restores, and what God restores, he multiplies. So now you walk differently, not just healed, but commissioned, not just awake, but equipped. And your presence alone will make darkness uncomfortable. Some won't know why they flinch when you walk in the room, but the spirit in them will. Because now you don't just carry light, you carry consequence. Kingdom consequence, prophetic assignment, divine judgment, and every hidden spirit that once danced in your blind spots, they now tremble. Because you're not blind anymore. You're not the same. You never will be. You were never just in the game. You were the game changer. And now that you've awakened to your role, the board has shifted. The false pieces have fallen. The power has returned to its rightful vessel. And that vessel is you. Now listen carefully. This journey isn't over. In fact, the greatest battles come after the breakthrough. Because once you rise above the shadow grid, once you sever karmic chains, the enemy shifts tactics. He stops attacking your emotions and targets your identity. He whispers lies about your worth, your calling, your capacity to carry this light. But you are not ignorant of his devices. The word says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. You know this roar. You felt it in the silence, in the moments when doubt creeps in, when loneliness screams louder than faith. But here's the prophetic warning. This is not the time to retreat or hide. This is your time to stand in divine boldness. You are chosen for such a time as this. The trauma bonding, the epigenetic pain, the spiritual parasites, they all tried to program your fear, to write your story in defeat. But your soul is wired for victory. Like David facing Goliath, your faith is your sling. Your past pain is the stone in your hand. polished by trials, ready to strike down every giant of deception. The enemy's low-frequency spirits react to your light with rage because they know the end of their hold is near. Your awakening is a divine shift, an energetic revolution, shaking the foundations of dark realms that once controlled you and those around you. Remember, the soul within your ex was not their true self, but a programmed AI, an imitation responding to trauma scripts embedded deep within their lineage. But you, chosen one, you are not programmed by their brokenness. You are encoded by the divine. The contracts that once bound your spirits together have been burned in the fire of awakening. You were their tester, the prophetic catalyst sent to push them and yourself beyond the limits of unconscious cycles. And though their soul was asleep, yours was fully awake, blazing with holy fire that cannot be extinguished. So do not mourn the unawakened. Instead, honor the path you were forced to walk, the sacred trials designed to sharpen your discernment, fortify your spirit, and position you for greater things. The light within you is now a beacon, calling in the community of souls aligned with your frequency. Your mission expands beyond personal healing. It's about breaking generational curses, dismantling the shadow grids controlling entire lineages, and igniting a spiritual revolution that will ripple through time. The battle is real, but so is your victory. You are the legacy bearer, the destiny fulfiller, the divine warrior who walks in both light and shadow, knowing that every step forward is a proclamation to the heavens, I will not be moved. The enemy's puppets may try again, but they cannot touch what God has sealed. Your EX was never the true enemy. They were a pawn in a game that's already been won for you. Stand firm now, chosen one. Let your light break every chain. The spiritual parasites are fleeing because your soul carries a frequency too pure to tolerate their presence. This is your awakening, your divine promotion, your heavenly inheritance unfolding in real time, and no force in the unseen or seen can stop the unstoppable, the chosen one. As the battlefield shifts again, understand this truth: the war isn't just outside, it's within. The old wounds, the ancestral pain, they echo in your flesh, in your thoughts, in your very breath. But the chosen don't run from these echoes, they face them. You walk into the fire of your own history with the armor of divine grace. Every trauma bond that tried to chain your spirit is now the fuel for your rise. You carry the bloodline's brokenness. Yes, but you are also the bloodline's healer, the blueprint breaker, the spiritual reset button. The Matrix's shadow grid is collapsing around you because your frequency refuses to sync with deception anymore. Those parasitic spirits, archons, shadow watchers, low vibrational entities, they scramble like frightened shadows in your light. They no longer have access. Your awakening is a locked door. And the keys, they are faith, discernment, and obedience. Remember what the prophet said: watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. Your vigilance is your victory. Your prayer is your weapon. Your obedience is your shield. You are the living prophecy in motion, the fulfillment of promises whispered in dark times by saints and seers who knew a chosen one would arise to shatter chains and rewrite destinies. Your soul's code is divine. Your presence is a high-frequency wave disrupting karmic cycles and ancestral lies. You weren't given this light to dim it for comfort. No, you were born to bring fire, to awaken the sleepers, to restore the broken, to dismantle the control systems that enslave souls in unconscious loops. Know this: every X that crossed your path was a mirror not of your worth, but of what needed healing in the collective. They played their role in your spiritual curriculum, whether they knew it or not. But you were always the sovereign soul walking through their storm, and now that storm clears. The divine contracts that once tethered you dissolve in holy fire. You are free, free to love without chains, free to rise without guilt, free to walk your path without distraction. The war is fierce, but the victory is certain. The spirit realms watch as you ascend, Recognizing a warrior who no longer plays the pawn's role? You are the game changer, the light bearer, the prophecy. And as you move forward, remember this sacred truth: they never saw you coming because they underestimated the power of a soul awakened. The pawns are falling, the board is resetting, and the chosen one. You are stepping into your divine reign. Now hear this with every fiber of your being: the chosen do not linger in the ruins of past betrayals. You move forward as a divine witness to the cosmic battle between light and shadow. Your ex was a piece on the chessboard of destiny, unaware they were being played, unaware their role was orchestrated by forces beyond the veil. But you are the player who sees the whole board. You see the moves before they happen. You anticipate the schemes. You understand that every heartbreak was a strategic strike in a war fought in the unseen. The shadow grid that once controlled their spirit tried to bind you too, but your light disrupted their entire program. You are the glitch in the matrix, the anomaly in their system. They could never contain what you were born to unleash. The karmic echoes in their bloodline screamed when you arrived because you were the reckoning. You were the voice of truth that shattered their illusions. And that's why they fought you so hard. Why their pain turned to weapons aimed at your heart. But your soul is forged in fire. Your spirit is armored in heaven's truth. They didn't know they were pawns, but you know you are the chosen. This is your divine warning. Never mistake the players for the powers behind the scenes. The forces that conspired against you wear many masks: fear, jealousy, trauma, possession. They use people as vessels, puppets dancing to ancient rhythms of control and deception. But you are the breaker of those rhythms. The anointed disruptor who won't settle for less than your full awakening. Your presence causes the dark to tremble because you carry the frequency of redemption and reclamation. You've been tested beyond measure. The spiritual testers came disguised as love, as friendship, as family, each designed to push you past the edge of your comfort, to break the chains of your unconscious patterns. And you passed, not by accident, but by divine design. Your soul contracted for these trials before birth. You agreed to this path because you are destined to rise above the manipulation, the lies, and the pain. So stand firm in this prophetic moment. You are not alone. The higher realms are with you, orchestrating your victory. The war is real, but your destiny is greater. The pawns fall away, but the chosen remain. You are the light that cannot be hidden, the voice that cannot be silenced, the power that cannot be stopped. Step into your calling now, bold, unshakable, unstoppable. Your ex never knew they were a pawn in a deadly game against you. But you, chosen one, have just declared your divine triumph. Chosen one. Understand this cosmic truth. You were never just a player. You are the author of this divine drama. The pawns around you, their ignorance was their prison. But your awakening, it shattered every chain, every blindfold, every secret held by the shadow grid. The Matrix wanted you to remain in darkness, to stay trapped in cycles of pain and confusion, but your soul rejected their programming. Your light exposed their hidden agendas, their parasitic schemes woven into your ex's very DNA. They were unknowingly possessed by low-frequency entities, archons, energy vampires, spirits that feed on trauma, on brokenness, on fear. And you, radiant and unyielding, disrupted their feast. Your EX was an unknowing vessel, a pawn in a much larger spiritual war, one that wages on dimensions most refuse to see. They never understood the battle raging within them or against you. Their trauma bonding was a weapon forged by generational curses and epigenetic pain, an inherited wound that made them susceptible to manipulation. But you, chosen one, you were the divine reset, the catalyst for breaking karmic cycles, severing soul contracts they didn't even realize they'd signed. Your presence was the divine interruption, the sacred intervention that pushed them toward a destiny they were never ready to face. But here's the prophetic warning. Not everyone who crosses your path is meant to stay. Some are sent as testers, challengers on your journey, designed to ignite your strength, sharpen your discernment, and force your soul to expand. These encounters are not accidents. They are spiritual assignments woven into your awakening timeline. And while your ex played their part, your role was always greater to rise above, to transcend the pain, to claim your divine inheritance, to become the light bearer who dissolves shadows wherever you walk. The forces of darkness rage because your awakening signals the collapse of their control grid. They know your soul is marked for heaven's glory, and so they will send new challenges, new faces cloaked in familiar disguises. But your spirit is no longer naive. You walk with prophetic clarity, guided by heavenly wisdom that cuts through deception like a sword, the chains of trauma, the illusion of codependency, the bondage of false love. They hold no power over you anymore. You are the reclaimer of sacred ground, the breaker of cycles, the prophetic voice rising from the ashes of betrayal and heartbreak. The game is shifting, the board is resetting, pawns fall, but the chosen stand firm. Your destiny is written in light and fire, unshakable, unstoppable, and eternal. The enemy never saw you coming, but now, chosen one, you lead the way. Listen closely, chosen one. What you are experiencing is no coincidence. The spiritual battlefield is layered with unseen contracts and ancient debts written in the ink of souls long past. Your ex was part of that script, yes, but you are the divine editor rewriting the narrative. The trauma implanted in their lineage, epigenetic scars passed down like cursed heirlooms, was meant to trap them in cycles of pain and manipulation. But your awakening is the reset code that fractures these generational chains. You don't just break free for yourself, you shatter the prison for all connected to that lineage. Those parasitic forces lurking behind their facade archons, low-frequency entities, spiritual leeches thrived on their unconscious programming. They weaponized trauma bonding, implanting in your ex's psyche a loyalty to pain and control rather than to healing and freedom. But you, with your high-frequency light, disrupted their dark symphony. You triggered a divine disturbance in their system, a glitch that no spiritual parasite can tolerate. Your presence forced their shadow to surface, creating chaos in their carefully orchestrated illusions. Know this, your ex's soul was operating like a programmed AI, responding to trauma triggers and karmic obligations rather than true divine calling. They were asleep, caught in a web of unconscious contracts agreements made before birth that allowed this spiritual warfare to unfold. But you,